We have made it, ladies and gentlemen. We have made it. Sunday. We are wide awake. We are fascinating. And as you can tell, we are freshly shaven. Welcome to some brunching about brackets here on In the Circle Live. I'm your host, your Sherpa, if you will, throughout this progress. I'm Victor Anderson. Happy Selection Sunday to all of you. Woo! Did everybody get proper sleep after all the craziness that we saw last night with the comeback of the ages by Grand Canyon and the 5 seeds, South Alabama, went in the Sun Belt tournament? That makes the Sun Belt a multi-bid league, but at whose expense? We're going to talk about that a little bit today, but I want you to think of this, ladies and gentlemen, as that opening course, that appetizer to kind of get the palate wet a little bit, because tonight is the big one at 6:30 Eastern time on the D1 Softball Socials, our D1 Softball Selection Show Special. The alliteration was phenomenal by yours truly. Jenna Becerra will serve as your host. Eric Lopez, our bracketologist, Rian Paki, and yours truly will be talking about the field of 64, the bracket, the new look bracket. I'll give my thoughts about that a little bit today. We will say the full breakdown for the show tonight. So that's to be at 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central time. We're also going to work to have some guests on the show to share their thoughts about their teams getting in and where they are seated. Also, make sure you go to d1softball.com. This promo code is still good for this week, so be on the lookout for that. Promo code season26 for any subscription to D1 Softball. Great articles from Rian Paki, who was covering the results of all the mid-majors. We got 2 final automatic qualifiers this morning. Mary's taking care of business in the MAAC, and UNC Greensboro just shutting out Sanford about 20 minutes before we went on the air in the SoCon. So that's their 4th trip to the NCAA tournament. All that and more on d1softball.com. But let's get to it, ladies and gentlemen. Selection Sunday, we are about 6 hours, 25 minutes away from the actual start of the show. A little bit at 5 or 10 minutes for the actual revealing of the bracket. Now, if you go to d1softball.com, Eric Lopez put available a few hours ago his final bracketology for 2026. Now, again, we will give you a breakdown of what it all means on our Selection Sunday show tonight at 6:30. But allow us to kind of give you a little look at what's going to happen here. So, again, all available for you for free. Again, this is a new structure. Now, I want everybody to note this key. Quietly revealed on the NCAA's website late Friday night. Now, it was first announced during the ACC semifinals on Friday afternoon, which, let's be perfectly honest, kind of caught everyone off guard, and everyone's going to be like figuring this out. So here, if you go to NCAA.com right now, it is available for you to look at. I'll give you a simplistic breakdown of how you're going to see it. Super regionals are not going to change. It's still going to be 1-16, 8-9, 4-5, 2-15, so forth and so on. Those of you who are with me little less than 12 hours ago, you saw how we broke all that down. How they're seeding the teams to get there will be different. Easiest way to think of it, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to have, let's say, for example, the number 1 seed. The number 1 seed, again, will be paired with the number 16 seed. The 2 seed, the quote-unquote number 2 seed in that quadrant right here, is going to be the number 8 national seed. So if everything holds, you should see the 1 seed play the 16. You have the 8 play the 9, and then the top 2 seeds advance to the Women's College World Series. And you break that down for everything else. We'll get to that tonight at 6:30. We're not going to bombard you with more information. I'm sure you already got plenty of explanations today. But the easiest way to think of it is this. And you can do this at home. I want everybody to write down 1 through 8. So write 1, then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Make a few spaces, and then you're going to write 9 to 16 going up, descendingly. So essentially, it's going to look a little bit like this. So you see how you have the seeds 1 through 8, and then 9 through 10, 9 through 16, 17 to 24, 25 to 32. That's a more simple way of analyzing how the 32 teams will be seeded. Now, obviously, to avoid interconference matchups before the super regionals, they're going to try and switch seeds or try and make it more favorable for geographical purposes and travel purposes, because they still have the 400-mile rule, which I believe Scott Van Pelt, you could probably say this a lot better than I can, sir, if you would please. Scott Van Pelt, where are you?
That makes a lot of sense.
Thank you.
Because that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. So that's the situation in terms of the bracket. But let's get to the field. This is the final projected field according to Eric Lopez. And Eric will talk about it more tonight because he literally just got in at 0:30, had to alter his flight from Oklahoma City, had a long layover in Denver where he finished his final bracketology, and then right back here on the home base. So this is Eric Lopez's final projected field of 64. He has Alabama, the number 1 overall seed, Oklahoma, number 2, Texas, 3, Arkansas, 4. Nebraska, by virtue of them winning both the Big Ten regular season and tournament championship and doing so against UCLA, he has them as the 5 seed, Florida the 6, Tennessee the 7. And I'm not saying Eric watched the show last night, but he did kind of agree with me with Florida State being that final national seed at number 8. Then he has UCLA, Texas Tech, Georgia, and Duke. And here's the other thing, ladies and gentlemen. Of those 5 teams, Florida State won their tournament championship. UCLA, Texas Tech played for their conference championships. Both of them lost. UCLA 9-2 to Nebraska. Texas Tech got shut out by Arizona State. Georgia got walked off in the semifinals against Texas. Duke losing in the semifinal versus Virginia Tech. So that's why Eric has who he has there. Now, with UNC Greensboro winning the SoCon, UNCG would be the 3 seed here in Durham, with Howard being the 4. Now you look at these last 4 nationals, last 4 hosts. Oklahoma State, Oregon, Texas A&M, and this is where it's getting interesting. Eric thinks LSU will be that final 16 seed and host. I am leaning more towards Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech had a better finish to the regular season. They played for their conference championship, unlike LSU. And if you really look at the metrics, I could make the argument that Virginia Tech should be hosting over LSU. So it's like 6-1, half a dozen in the other. Now, you see who you look at these 2 3 seeds right here. Southeastern Louisiana, McNeese. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Eric has Southeastern Louisiana in the field of 64 as an at-large. That makes the Southland a multi-bid league for the first time in first time in conference history. He has Michigan going to Stillwater, which I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, as I evaluate the rest of the 3 seeds. We're talking about Wisconsin. We're talking about Northwestern. Why isn't Michigan on the bubble? But let's get to that bubble, if you will. Last 4 in. He has Marshall making it in. He has Baylor, Georgia Tech, Southeastern Louisiana. That's his last 4 in. First 4 out. North Carolina, Northwestern, Louisiana, Monroe, and Wichita State. His next 4 out. Purdue, Nevada, Louisiana, and Iowa State. Let's analyze the resume, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? And get your comments in. Feel free to chime in here. We're going to be going on to about 1:15, 1:30. Any questions that you may have for me, I will answer them to the best of my ability, and I will get your thoughts in as well. So let us analyze Michigan, because what's crazy to me is how come Michigan is getting a pass but not Northwestern? Let's analyze the Michigan side of things, shall we? As we wait for our screen to come up. Come on, Michigan. Maybe Michigan's resume is so sketched that maybe we don't want to talk about Michigan. I don't know. But Michigan, here we go. That's Michigan. So Michigan, they won at USF, the American champions, for the 2nd straight year. Kansas lost to Houston. That's a quad 4 loss. They beat Arizona State in Tempe. Outside of that, 2 wins against Purdue. They beat Northwestern. They beat Wisconsin. It surprises, for me, it's just surprising to me that Michigan is as comfortably in as we're thinking. Mainly because of this year. They win against Arizona State. And this year against Kansas. We're really, you can make the argument that these are Michigan's 3 best wins. And they all took place in the non-conference. Outside of that, they win the series against Purdue. They win the series against Northwestern. Nothing really impressive, at least from me, for the Michigan perspective. What about a team? What about the Northwestern team? We talked about Northwestern's resume last night. What about Northwestern? What do we see from the Johans? Can they make the field of 64? Eric, as you saw, has them as one of his first 4 out. Let's analyze the Northwestern side of the resume. Beat Texas State and Tempe. If Missouri was in contention and eligible to make the tournament, that would be a great win. But Missouri finished below 500, so we throw that out the window. Beat Boston, which is a quad 3, fringe quad 2. Boston came in today with a RPI of 55. Beat Oregon. Took a game against Michigan in the series that we referenced that they lost. Lost to DePaul, by my calculations. I'm checking the numbers right now. DePaul will be a quad 4 loss. Yes, DePaul was a quad 4 loss. So lose to DePaul. You lose to Minnesota, who is looking for a new head coach after Piper Ritter was thanked for her services. Minnesota, a quad 4 loss. They have a 144 RPI. And then in the Big Ten tournament, you're one and done to Penn State. Penn State 71 RPI. That's a quad 3 loss. So if you're Northwestern, the loss to Minnesota, the loss to Penn State almost cancels the wins you have against Michigan and Oregon. And both of those games were in their home, away from home in Rosemont, as their softball stadium is being renovated. Should be ready for the 2027 season. You take those 2 wins out, their best wins are likely against Texas State and Boston. So I don't think Northwestern has enough there to get in. Wisconsin, with the way they finished, taking the series against Michigan and then making that run to the Big Ten semifinal, including beating Oregon in a slugfest 11-9, I think that puts Wisconsin on the right side. They're clearly in. I'm surprised Michigan is on the bubble. They're not worried about being on the bubble. This, ladies and gentlemen, is where things are really going to get interesting. And Eric referenced this on our Monday episode of Inner Circle. You can go back and listen wherever you get your podcast. Marshall, 37-17. They finished 3rd in the Sun Belt. Keep that in mind. They have 3 wins against the Big East tournament champion, UConn. They have a win against the SWAC tournament champion, FAMU. They have a win against the Patriot League champion, Boston. 2 wins against the MAAC champion, Akron. But outside of that, they had the 2 wins against Texas State. They had the 2 wins against South Alabama, who won the Sun Belt Tournament Championship, but lost to Ohio. 2 losses to Louisiana. 2 losses to James Madison. 2 losses to a loss to Coastal Carolina. Why is that important? Ohio, 90 RPI. That's a quad 4 loss. Louisiana, that's a 52. So fringe quad 3, quad 2. No real damage there. Coastal Carolina, 88 RPI. That's a quad 4 loss. So Marshall, when we break things down, we got the new James Madison. James Madison, 81 RPI, quad 4 loss. So Marshall finished their slate with 3 consecutive quad 4 losses. Coastal Carolina, the opener of the Sun Belt tournament, and the final 2 games of the regular season to James Madison. So you go into the tournament losing 3 in a row, 5 of your last 7, 6 of your last 9, and 7 of your last 12. You should be playing your best softball going into the postseason, not your worst softball. This will be the most polar, and Eric Lopez said this verbatim. I want to quote him here. This will be the most polarizing team come Selection Sunday. Here's why. And I believe Eric again brought up this stat on Monday's episode. No team who's been eligible to make the tournament has ever been left out of the field of 64 with a RPI better of 30 or better. Right now, as of this live show, we thank all of you for watching. Marshall has a 28 RPI. 28 RPI. But let's go to the team that won the Sun Belt regular season championship, Louisiana Monroe. Let's look at the Warhawks, if you will. Louisiana Monroe, 19-5 in the Sun Belt. They have better metrics in terms of the DSR and the KPI than Marshall. Matter of fact, the DSR has Louisiana Monroe slightly ahead of Marshall at 45. Marshall's at a 46. By the way, go to D1 Softball. If you go to D1Softball.com, you can go to rankings, go to Diamond Sports Ranking, and you can look at those numbers for yourself. You can go to RPI report and check out the RPI. RPI going into today, Marshall, as I referenced, had a 28 RPI. UL Monroe with a 46 RPI. Marshall with a slight advantage in terms of strength of schedule than Louisiana Monroe, but I referenced those quad 3, quad 4 losses that Marshall has over Louisiana Monroe. So let's go back to Monroe's slate. They lost twice to McNeese, but McNeese won the Southland Championship. And don't worry, we'll get to the Southland in just a minute. Lost to North Texas. That's a quad 4 loss. North Texas came in at 114. Louisiana Tech. Where's Louisiana Tech? Louisiana Tech 72. So that's a quad 3. That's a quad 3 loss. Jacksonville State lost to them twice. Ole Miss. Central Arkansas, that's a quad 2 loss because Central Arkansas was the 1 seed in the ASUN tournament, lost to Stetson in the conference championship game yesterday in Jacksonville. If you're a Stetson fan, you may want to tune in tonight. I got a surprise for y'all. I'm just saying. If y'all thought the GOAT match was wild last year, just wait until it happens tonight at 6:30. But they beat Texas State in San Marcos. That's a quality win. That's a top 50 win. They beat South Alabama. Now, South Alabama, while they won the Sun Belt, South Alabama is a 47 RPI. So Louisiana Monroe has already 3 top 50 RPI wins. And then they lost to South Alabama in the semifinals. So if you look at Louisiana Monroe, you look at Marshall, I'm going to give the nod to Monroe. To be perfectly honest with you, because you have to, and here's the thing. Nevada was making a strong case last year about making the field of 64. Because they were the Mountain West regular season champions. They got knocked out in the semifinals of their conference tournament. Louisiana Monroe, same situation. Won the regular season title, knocked out in the semifinals. I can make the argument that Louisiana Monroe have better metrics, has better wins than our Nevada team did last year when Nevada got left out. I think you should flip. Put Monroe in, take Marshall out, because if we go back to Aries bracketology, and we will see what is going on in the Baton Rouge regional. That's an easy switch. Because you've got Marshall in, you can put Monroe either in Norman, or you can put McNeese in Norman, put Monroe, that could be a bus. But that's the interesting thing. Now let's talk about it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about it. Actually, Fabric got a question here. A black cowboy hat might mean that Victor thinks Oklahoma State or Texas are going to win the championship. There's another team, Fabric, that's known for hats. I'll let y'all figure that out tonight at 6:30. I got y'all intrigued about what I'm doing with the hat. But let's get into the Southeastern Louisiana of it all, ladies and gentlemen, shall we? By the way, good morning to all of y'all. Appreciate y'all hanging out with your boy. We are coming up on 6 hours away from the selection show. And of course, we'll be having it for you, covering all angles of it here on D1softball.com at 6:30 with our selection show special. Let's take a look at Louisiana, Southeastern Louisiana. 46-14. They come into today with an RPI of 37. No real bad losses on the slate. Beat Texas State, beat Southern Miss, beat Louisiana Monroe. I referenced them just a few minutes ago. Took care of McNeese, who won the Southland. Here's where it gets interesting with Southeastern Louisiana. Stephen F. Austin. Stephen F. Austin, 133 RPI. That's a quad 4 loss. Then they lost to Nickel State. Nickel State, 120. Quad 4 loss. Incarnate Word, 106. Quad 4 loss. So you have 3 quad 4 losses in a 7-game stretch, and plus you play Alcorn State, which is a quad 4 team, so your numbers are going to drop regardless. Now, the big question was Lamar. Lamar comes in with the RPI of 94. So it doesn't damage you that much. But quad 3 loss, quad 3 loss, quad 4 loss, quad 4 loss, quad 4 loss. Again, regular season champions beat another regular season champion on their field in Louisiana Monroe on March 24th, shut them out 3-0. Beat Texas State. So Southeast Louisiana, Southeastern has 2 wins against quality teams. And oh, by the way, they did this to cap off their time in the NFC Elite Classic, knocked off Oregon 4-2. So, will that be enough? And also how to win against Central Arkansas in Conway. Will that be enough? We shall see. Oh man. If it were me, it's going to come down to Southeastern Louisiana. It's going to come down to Louisville Monroe. It's going to come down to Marshall. And to be perfectly honest with you, the committee, they are breathing a big sigh of relief. Because let's remember, last night, Grand Canyon trailed 9-0 to Nevada in the winner-take-all game for the Mountain West Championship in Reno. Grand Canyon came back, won that game in 8 innings, 11-10. If Nevada won that game, Grand Canyon would have been in with 51 wins, which meant one of those 3 teams that I just mentioned, Marshall, UL Monroe, Southeastern Louisiana, one of those teams would have been gone. That's a bit stolen right there. South Alabama, with their win last night, winning the Sun Belt. That's another big guard. So if you're a Georgia Tech, if you're a Northwestern, if you're a Marshall, if you're a UL Monroe, if you're a Southeastern Louisiana, you got the results for all intents and purposes you wanted to get today or yesterday. How will that come selections? How will that come to later on tonight at 6 o'clock? We don't know. So That's one of my storylines that I'm looking forward to, how the bubble handles itself. Also, the top 8 seeds. We feel very confident, and we kind of talked about this last night, family, how 7 of the top 8 national seeds were pretty locked in. The question was just going to be who was that number 8 national seed. Eric Lopez, he kind of agrees with me. He's leaning towards Florida State. I think if UCLA had taken care of business and beating Nebraska in the Big Ten championship game, you could flip UCLA and Florida State, which meant with the national seeds, which I will break down in more eloquent form tonight, does UCF then travel to Florida? Does UCF then go to Tallahassee? Because you look at that UCLA regional, you got UCLA, you got Fullerton, that's a bus trip. Cal Baptist, congratulations to previous guest Brandon Telesco and the Lancers making the tournament for the first time in their D1 history. That's a bus trip for them. Of course, you got Florida State with Stetson. All I'm going to say, if you're South Carolina, the Stetson team, very powerful offensively. Nicole Edmonston, ASUN player and offensive player of the year. Ariana Garcia, one of the best shortstops that none of you have heard of. You'll get to see her in action this weekend. They have a very dominant lineup, and the pitching has come on at the right time with Haley Arnold, ASUN tournament most valuable player. That could be a tricky 2-3 matchup for South Carolina. And look, if Jassy Francic is not pitching for Florida State, Stetson can give them a run for their money. Stetson played Florida tough their first meeting in Gainesville. They played UCF tough in their final midweek of the season in Orlando. Shelly Cousins knows how to coach up this team, but we'll get to all of that later on today. Mike asked, does the 400-mile rule come into play? Yes. The 400-mile rule is still in effect. If anything, it could make seeding easy. It could make taking teams easier. Because look, Eric right now has FAMU, who won the SWAC, busing to Gainesville. I can easily see FAMU flipping to go to Tallahassee. You keep USF there. You can put Stetson, put them in Gainesville, flip them at USF. Although USF went there last year, went to Tallahassee, that is. So I can see USF going to Gainesville. And then the UCF of it all, since UCF is going to be a national seed, where do the Knights get slotted? Because if you really want to make things interesting, if you're the committee and save yourself some headache, you can put UCF as a 2 in Tallahassee, put Stetson as a 3. You're not going to put UCF as a 2 in Florida. Nope, not going to happen. I mean, although it is a even year, so that could possibly happen. Mike says UCF goes to UCLA, Arizona goes to Duke. As of this bracketology, that's what Eric is predicting. Now, keep in mind that they have to figure out, they have to avoid those interconference matchups. So that's why you don't see Oklahoma. That's why you don't see Arizona State matched up with Oklahoma State here, because that would be an interconference matchup. The earliest those two can meet would be in super regionals. Now, could I see a situation where I could put Arizona State in Eugene? I could put Arizona State in Durham and put Arizona in Eugene. Yeah, and where Mike says Arizona goes to UCLA, UCF goes to Duke. That's certainly possible too. Certainly possible too. The regional that has me the most intrigued, this one right here. Lincoln Look here. If you do not like the color red, do not watch this regional because you got Big Red in Nebraska. You got Louisville with Holly April. You got Boston U probably with Casey Ricard, who, if she is not an All-American this year, I will demand a full national investigation. And then South Dakota. Now, here's my question. Why isn't South Dakota, who's on a multitude of teams who don't have a winning record, why are they not going to the number 1 overall seed in Alabama? Why is USC upstate there? Wouldn't it make sense, at least from my perspective, if you want to go by the 400-mile rule, why don't you put upstate as a 4 seed in Durham? Because bus trip for UNCG, bus trip for upstate. But yeah, what do I know? Let's see. Jamie asks, do you really see Washington going to FSU or Florida? Well, it depends on where Washington is seated at. Because right now, Eric has them as the number 28 national seed, has them slotted to go into Gainesville. As crazy as this sounds, because again, you cannot put Washington with Nebraska because that is an interconference matchup and they can beat until the Super Regional.
That makes a lot of sense.
Thank you, Scott Van Pelt. So maybe you put Virginia. So you got Virginia there with Knoxville because they were there a couple of years ago. You got Louisville here. You got Washington. Now, I could put Washington, swap seeds with Virginia, and then maybe you figure out you can still keep the integrity of the 32 national seeds. But folks, trust me, it's going to be a lot of wackiness come tonight. Let's see. Mike, last year, Nebraska, Tennessee. This year. Yeah, this is the thing. If Texas Tech does not get a top 8 national seed, you're hurting Texas Tech, and you're hurting the team that has to play Texas Tech. See Florida State last year in Supers. That's the thing. So by this scenario, Mike, as you alluded to, a Carlin Pickens versus Najee Kennedy Super Regional. And think about this, ladies. And think about this. That would mean one of these players' tremendous careers would end before Oklahoma City. Think about that. One of these players' careers will end before Oklahoma City. And then they would transition over to the AUSL. Whew. That will be very fascinating. And by the way, Eric, I see what you're doing here, sir. I don't think I don't see what you're doing. You got Alabama, LSU, and all SEC Super Regional. You have Oklahoma, Texas A&M, and all SEC Super Regional. You have, let's see, Florida. Dude, can you stop scheduling Florida and Georgia to play in Super Regionals? This will be the 4th time that Florida and Georgia will have played in the Super Region within the last 15 years. Georgia has won 2 of the previous 3. So you will have 4 all SEC Super Regionals here. Alabama with LSU, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Florida and Georgia. I'm sorry, you have 3 all SEC Super Regionals. My apologies. So the committee, they say they don't think of it, Mike. They say they don't think of it, but we know their network partners likely do. See Oregon v. Texas in Supers. See Texas v. Texas A&M in Supers. The committee doesn't think of it. Maybe they're steered in a certain direction about it. I don't know. We shall see. We shall see. Okay. We have talked a lot about the bubble. We have talked a lot about who's going to be in, who's going to be out. We've done a lot of talking. We're going to get some answers at long last tonight at 7 p.m. But join myself, Jenna Becerra, Rianne Pocky, Eric Lopez for the D1 Softball Selection Show special on the D1 Softball social accounts starting at 6:30. We're going to get you ready for the Field of 64. We're going to give you a full breakdown of what the seeding and the quadrants will all mean. I had a nice presentation ready for everybody to go, but we're going to withhold that before tonight's selection show. Trust me, Professor Anderson will be in his bag, ready to drop some knowledge upon all of you tonight at 6:30. And then, of course, once we know the postseason matchups, go to d1softball.com. We will have you ready for all of the regionals. We will talk about the coaching carousel, more jobs open. Minnesota's looking for a head coach. Illinois is looking for a head coach. Tulsa's looking for a head coach. All that and more on d1softball.com. New promo code likely dropping this week, so be on the lookout for that from our great D1 softball team. And before we sign off, I want to give a big shout out to our phenomenal D1 softball team, Rianne Pocky, Jenna Becerra, who was at the ACC tournament, Justin McLeod, who was covering the American tournament where USF won their second straight conference championship, Jeff Brown, who was at the SEC tournament to see Texas win the conference title, Eric Lopez in Oklahoma City, who saw Arizona State take home the championship, Riley Anderson, no relation, handling all the graphics on our D1 softball socials. Our phenomenal team taking care of business. We thank all of you for watching our Brunching About brackets. Everyone get your rest, get your lunch, get your brackets ready because we're going to have a lot to talk about tonight. I may have a cowboy hat. I may break out a wig. I may break out the goat mask. I don't know. But one thing we do know, there'll be plenty to talk about. And we will talk about all of it on tomorrow's episode of In the Circle on D1 Softball, powered by 643. We will see y'all later tonight at 6:30 on the D1 Softball Selection Sunday special. Victor Anderson signing off, top podcaster out. Goodbye, softball fans. See y'all tonight.